Okay, if we get this right, we will have created the perfect cleaning solution.
Or we're going to blow up my house.
Okay, ready? Let's do it.
Oh no, we put in too much soap.
I have always been like my dad, a smart genius. And because of my dad, I met my best friend Trevor. His dad and my dad worked together. We went to the same school, and sometimes we would hang out together. Until one day, his dad ruined everything. Mr. Smith had always been nice to me, but when he came into the room that day, he seemed so weird.
Hey, Erica, here's a gift for you.
What's this, Mr. Smith?
It's a prototype of a new computer game. I want you to be the first one to test it.
I should have known something was wrong when I saw his sly smile. Thanks, Mr. Smith.
Oh, yes. Just make sure to play it on your dad's computer.
I had no idea Mr. Smith had been working against my dad. Usually, I never messed with my dad's work computer, but I loved video games and Mr. Smith insisted. When I got home, I started to play the game Mr. Smith gave me, but then weird messages started to pop up. The disk turned out to be a virus. The computer started to smoke, and before I knew it, the entire thing blew up. My dad rushed into the room.
Erica, what are you doing in my office? What happened to my computer?
Sorry, Dad. I just wanted to play the game Mr. Smith gave me.
On my computer? You're dumb. Video game obsession caused all this. All my work for the big day was on there. Now what am I going to do?
It was too late. I had ruined all of my dad's work for his big presentation.
I knew I should have gotten rid of these stupid video games. They belong in the trash.
My dad gathered up all of my video games and threw them away. Dad, please don't throw my games away. It was an accident.
Now, you can't get into any more trouble in our new neighborhood.
New neighborhood? And that's when I found out my dad was moving the entire family out of town. With his project destroyed, my dad stood no chance against Mr. Smith, and he was fired. The next day, moving vans showed up to our house. I couldn't stop crying, thinking that this would be the last time I would see Trevor. My whole life was going to change, and it wasn't just because we were moving to a different city.
Now remember, we all need to work extra hard since I lost my job.
I'll do whatever I can to help out, Dad. You can count on me.
Hey! Slow down! I can't! It's too slippery!
Did you just hit me with a snowball?
Of course not. I think that snowball from Miranda was meant for me, so thank you for taking it for me. I'm Lisa. I'm a fashion designer.
I'm Erica, and now I'm freezing.
Where's this Miranda? I've got a bone to pick with that girl. No, don't do it. She makes the most money for the store, therefore she runs it. She can make your life miserable here, Erica. Besides, forget about her. Today is the big day.
What's so special about today?
Hunter is the richest guy in town, and today he's doing his Christmas shopping. And this year, he's going to pick my design for his Christmas list. I just know it.
Are those your designs?
Oh no, all my samples are wet.
Lisa and I quickly became friends. Even though I missed Trevor, it was nice to have someone to talk to again. And then I met the terror that is Miranda.
Oh, how cute. She found a friend to play with in the dirty snow. How fitting.
I don't know who this girl thought she was, but I know she wasn't talking to me like that. You should watch who you throw things at.
Some people may throw things back. Whatever. You both smell like wet dogs. Just stay away from Hunter so you don't ruin my big Christmas sale.
I thought Miranda was going to be the worst part of working at the store, but the customers were just as bad. Working in the store during the holidays was the worst. Everyone was so rude. It didn't help that Miranda and her little friends were trying to make my life as difficult as possible. But that day, I met the most entitled person I have ever met. Even thinking about it makes my blood boil.
And I will take this whole section to decorate my dog houses.
Hey, excuse me. I'm working here.
And who are you?
I'm annoyed. Nice to meet you. Now, if you don't mind, I have to clean this all up.
Work? What is that? You're funny and cute. And I want her as well.
Hey, buddy, I'm not for sale. I just work here. Hey, Richie Rich, I think you need a serious wake-up call. I work for everything I get, buddy.
Fine. Then I will buy the store. That makes you my employee.
Whatever, dude. I'm going to lunch. But when I got back from lunch that day, the whole store was empty. It was like Thanos had done the snap or something. When I got outside, Hunter was waiting outside the store in front of a limo. Where is everyone?
I told you, I bought the store, and now you and I can be together. Can't you see? I've fallen head over heels for you. You've basically won the lottery.
Are you insane? This is my only job, and I need to help my parents pay for our home.
You don't understand. My father is rich, and I can get whatever I want for my Christmas present, and I've chosen you.
Once again, moneybags. I'm not for sale. And besides, I'm in love with someone else. See ya.
You should know I always get what I want.
Well, not with me. As much as I wanted a ride home in a limo after a long day, I walked in the snow all the way home. But when I got home, I was surprised to find my family throwing a party.
Oh, hey honey, welcome to the party.
What's going on here?
Great news, honey. Your father has been offered a job.
Not only that, but someone is going to pay for our house for a year.
That's great, but who exactly is giving us all this free stuff?
That's the best part, hon. It's a mystery. They just said it was a secret admirer. Isn't that amazing?
I think I had an idea of who would be so over-the-top extra like this.
Go up to your room, hon. Our secret admirer even left a gift for you.
My room was full of every luxury item I could imagine. It was like I had opened up my own department store. On my bed was a note with an address on it.
My dearest Erica, this is just a taste of the life and luxury you and your family will have if you will be my girlfriend. Meet me at my mansion tomorrow at noon with your suitcase. Your love, always, Hunter.
What an absolute lunatic. But a lunatic who could change my family's life. I was torn on what to do. I didn't want to ruin my dad's joy or his new job, so I went to see exactly what this rich jerk wanted.
Ah, you must be Master Hunter's Christmas gift. You've arrived quite early.
I'm no one's gift, okay? I'm just here to help my dad. Now, where's Hunter?
Right this way. I'll show you to your room.
My room? When the butler opened the door, I saw a room full of presents as far as the eye can see.
Master Hunter wants you to live here for the next week. That way on Christmas Day, we can have his grand unwrapping.
Stay here? No way! I'm not spending the holiday away from my family.
But your father has already signed a contract for you to stay here. Think of it as a Christmas vacation.
I couldn't believe I was stuck in this ridiculous place, and I couldn't believe my dad would sign me up for this. I needed to find a way out of here. I started searching for an exit, and then...
Finally! I was wondering when you would get here. Lisa? What are you doing here? I heard that Hunter fell head over heels with you, and I told a little white lie that I was your clothing designer. Lisa, we need to get out of here. This Hunter kid is crazy. He thinks he can have people as his Christmas present. That's not exactly normal. It's not that bad, Erica. You can order whatever food you want. And our parents get so much money. Yeah, Lisa, but we're a rich jerk's presents. Just then, the door burst open and a tall woman came into the room.
Oh, excellent. The new toys have arrived. You must be the one my precious Hunter found at the department store today. I'm his mom, and we need to make Hunter's Christmas perfect.
Toy? Listen, lady, you better let me go right now. We're not your son's entertainment.
Nonsense. You're going to miss the Christmas party if you leave now.
I don't want to go to a party. I want to spend the holidays with my family.
Okay, fine. Bring him in.
Dad, thank goodness you're here. These people are insane. Let's get out of here.
Well, just a second, honey. This seems like a pretty good deal. They are going to give me money to start my revenge project against Trevor's dad.
Dad, who cares about Mr. Smith? Can't we just move on? My dad would hear none of it. He just wanted to get back at Mr. Smith, and now I was the one who was paying for it.
Don't worry, honey. It's only a week. Look at all these things you have to play with. And you have your new friend here. Have fun.
Come on, friend, it'll be a blast. This opportunity is going to change our lives.
That night, we were forced to go to the most pretentious party ever. When my dad said I had to work, this wasn't exactly what I was picturing.
Isn't this great? Look at all these rich and famous people.
Are you kidding me?
We look ridiculous.
Yes, you do.
Oh boy, my night had gotten a lot worse.
I wondered why Hunter would ever be interested in someone like you. But now I know it was to embarrass you and your little friend. You're just jealous Hunter didn't choose you. After tonight he will. Or I will find another millionaire here to be my boyfriend, and you'll still be dressed like Santa's little helper.
Whatever, gold digger. Just then, Hunter stood up and the room went silent.
You are all very welcome for me inviting you to my son's Christmas party. I hope the gifts you have given him are acceptable. We would like to announce that this year for Christmas, we have found Hunter a girlfriend. Erica, please come to the front.
This had to be the most embarrassing moment of my life.
Go on.
They made me stand up there like I was some trophy. I was so mad with everyone clapping like trained seals. And just then, I saw him. I couldn't believe my eyes. It was Trevor. What was he doing here? And how did he get so cute in just a year? I barely heard what Hunter's mom said next, but when I did, I was shocked.
And in a few weeks, when Erica marries our dear Hunter…
Excuse me? I don't think so.
Mom, I don't understand why she is speaking to me in this manner.
Listen, I can't do this. I have to go. I'm not going to be told what to do by anybody, let alone some rich jerks. I felt like I wanted to scream, but then Trevor came in. When I looked at him, all of my anxiety went away, so I ran to him and gave him a big hug.
I thought I would never see you again. What are you doing in a place like this? About to marry a stuck-up guy like that?
It's a long story. Why are you here?
I wanted to contact you, but I couldn't find you. The cleaning project we were working on at my house is a hit. I was going to get Hunter to be an investor, and we can make millions.
Maybe I can help you with that, Trev. That night, I convinced Hunter that I had a business idea, and he was more than happy to finance it if it meant I married him. Little did they know, I had my fingers crossed and a trick up my sleeve.
Fine. I'll finance your little project. But a week from now, on Christmas, you and I will be married.
Okay, guys, that can't happen. We have to get to work, and quickly. With Hunter's money, I was able to buy back the department store. And with a little help from Trev and Lisa, I was going to make it awesome. With Lisa's clothes and Trevor's invention, we were ready for opening day. Everyone who was anyone was going to be here.
Oh my goodness, look at how many influencers are here. We're definitely going viral.
You'll be able to get away from Hunter and support your family on your own in no time.
I couldn't have done it without your help. And just then, Trevor picked me up and hugged me. Little did I know, one of the influencers caught Trevor and I on camera.
Oh my goodness, that's Chloe. She's the hottest fashion vlogger in the country. You have to talk to her.
As I was doing my interview, what I didn't see was Miranda and her friends sneaking into our grand opening. They went to all of our clothes and splattered them all with paint. When we started our fashion show, I thought Miranda had ruined everything. The fashion models began to walk out and everyone gasped. The clothes had paint streaks all over them.
Oh no! What happened to my clothes?
I think I have an idea. That was it. I was sick of dealing with this jealous bully. I needed to give her a piece of my mind.
Looks like the designs from your loser friend are ruined. I told you that you shouldn't mess with me.
I was ready to snap, but then I heard an applause, and then everyone began to stand up.
It's brilliant, dramatic, stunning. This is my fashion line of the year.
Watching Miranda's face as the whole store and fashion industry applauded us was priceless. I was so happy that I had forgotten all about Hunter and our arrangement.
Did you really think I wouldn't see you with him? I see everything. You've been using me to see this guy. Look at him. He's so poor. Hey, I'm not poor. Oh yes, you are. I am taking back my funding, and you and your loser friends will have nothing when you could have had everything.
I do have everything. I have a good family and friends and talent. I don't need your money. Just then, my dad jumped in between Hunter and I.
Don't listen to my crazy daughter. I just need a little more time to get back
Enough with the revenge stuff, Dad. If someone does us wrong, we just move on and do better. We don't need their money. And then Hunter's mom came with her lawyers next to her.
You have a contract that your family signed. What my son wants for Christmas, he gets.
Well, not this time. Erica doesn't owe you anything. I paid off her contract.
Trevor, you didn't have to do that. How could you afford to do that?
I sold our cleaning product to a major company, and we made millions, enough to get you away from these crazy people.
What a great Christmas gift.
Is there anything else you want?
Maybe just a vacation from my Christmas vacation.
What about your old video games?
You really do know everything I want.
Hey, just call me Santa Claus.
Hello, I'm May from Thailand. Please like and subscribe. I grew up in a wealthy family, and my parents gave me everything I wanted, except freedom. My mom watched my every move, and when she couldn't do it herself, she employed someone to do it. I'm not even kidding you guys. When I was 17, I came home from school to find the house full of guests. Uninformed servers were busy loading tables with all kinds of food. Mom, what's going on?
May, darling, come sit next to your father and I.
Sitting across from Mom was a scrawny-looking boy about the same age as me.
May, the king and queen are here to ask for your hand in marriage. This is their son, your future husband.
I burst out laughing, but stopped when I realized that no one else was laughing with me. Wait, you're serious?
Yes, now say hello and behave yourself.
I shot from my seat and grabbed the table. I will flip this table over, Mama.
Stop this nonsense, May.
No, tell them to leave now. When Mom said nothing, I tried to lift the table, but it wouldn't budge. So I grabbed the tablecloth and yanked it.
Oh my goodness, May! Look at what you just did. The king is covered in soup.
He looked hungry. A dozen servers scrambled to clean the mess while Mama fussed over the drenched old man. After 1,000 apologies from Mom, the king and his guests left. For the next couple of weeks, things were very tense at home, and Mom hardly spoke to me. I buried myself in schoolwork, and soon I forgot all about the boy and his royal parents. One day at school, I was about to open the library door when someone pushed it from the inside, knocking me over. Ugh, the boys at this school, always in a frickin' hurry.
Who are you calling a boy?
You? Who else?
Maybe you should watch where you're going next time. Anyway, here.
The boy extended his hand to help me up, but just as I was about to take it, he took his hand back, smirked, and walked away. What was his problem? Later that day, I walked into class and found the same boy in my seat. It's you again. Can you get off my seat? Shh. Did you just shush me?
Yes, I did. So what?
I grabbed his books and threw them on the floor.
Hey, that's not nice.
Just then, our teacher walked in to find us just about to go at each other.
Causing trouble already, Lunar?
Isn't Lunar a girl's name? I thought you were a boy. The whole class started to laugh. It's then that I realized how red Lunar's face had turned. She looked offended a little, then burst out laughing with the rest of the class. I was so embarrassed by my big mouth. As weeks went by, I realized that Lunar was really sweet and thoughtful. I showed her around and taught her all the things she needed to know about her new environment since it was her first time in Thailand. One day, she put a whoopee cushion on my seat, and when I sat on it, it let out a loud farting sound. The whole class burst out laughing, and so did I. I'd have been offended if it was someone else that pranked me. But honestly, I was starting to become so fond of Lunar, I didn't care what she did. We spent most of our time together, studying and doing our assignments. I even invited her to dinner at my house once, and the whole time, Mama kept a keen eye on her. Poor Lunar was so uncomfortable she never came home with me again. One day, we were in the library doing our homework when I caught Lunar staring at me and smiling. What are you staring at?
You're so beautiful.
I blushed and tried to ignore her, but she moved closer to me. What was she doing? I got my answer when she leaned in and kissed me. I'd never kissed a girl before, so I was really nervous. After our kiss, Lunar asked me to be her girlfriend, and when I said yes, she let out a squeal and kissed me again. Just then, someone cleared their throat behind us. Scrawny boy? My name is David. What are you doing here? I'm here for you, but I see you're busy kissing someone else. I don't think your mother would approve of this.
Wait, what's going on here?
This is none of your business.
Excuse me? My girlfriend is my business.
She's not your girlfriend. She's engaged to me. Lunar turned to me, a shocked look on her face.
Is this true?
Kind of, but it's complicated.
Unbelievable.
Lunar stormed out and I ran after her, begging her to let me explain, but she walked away angrily. To make things worse, David told me he'd be attending school with me. When I got home that day, I went straight to Mama. You had Scrawny Boy transferred to my school, didn't you?
He has a name, May. Learn to use it, since he will be your husband one day.
Never!
You should be happy that he transferred to your school just for you. The two of you will get to know each other better.
I get good grades, and I have a great future ahead of me. You already know I plan to go to a college abroad. You can't do this to me.
Grades aren't everything, May. And a girl needs a husband to have a great future.
I cannot believe you just said that. Seriously, what century was my mother from? Ugh. The next morning, I woke up to find a limousine waiting to take me to school.
Hurry up and get ready, May. You don't want to keep David waiting.
I tried to protest, but as usual, Mama got her way. From that day on, I rode with David to and from the school. Lunar barely spoke to me, and every time I tried to explain myself, David or one of his guards would pull me away from her. I finally decided I'd had enough of Mama and her controlling ways, so I decided to sneak out and go see Lunar. As soon as I left my house, a black car pulled over me and the window rolled down. David, what do you want now? I know you're going to see Lunar. Yes, I am, and you can't stop me. I bolted down the street and David drove after me, hooting and shouting at me to stop. May, watch out for the ditch. I didn't see the ditch until it was too late. I tried to dodge it, but I slipped and fell, rolling a few times before landing at the bottom of the ditch. I woke up to several hands touching me. I was confused for a minute until I realized that I was lying in a hospital bed.
May, you're awake.
Mama hugged me as she cried on my shoulder. Behind her were two ladies smiling at me. One was holding a measuring tape while the other was holding several wedding gowns. Mom, what's going on?
You were in an accident, dear. David saved you. Isn't he great?
David didn't save me. He's the reason I fell down that ditch. And who are these people?
Oh, these ladies are from the bridal shop. They're here to fit you with your wedding gown. I'm so glad you're awake.
Mom went to hug me again, but I shoved her and jumped out of the bed. Were you taking my measurements while I was asleep? You're all crazy.
You need to try on these dresses now.
I tried to leave, but Mom grabbed my hand and started to undress me. Mama, stop. I already told you I don't want to get married. You're being so selfish. Mama stopped and furiously glared at me.
Is this because of that girl you've been fooling around with?
What? Of course David had told her about Lunar.
You need to forget about her.
But I love her, Mama.
You won't after you watch this.
She pulled out a video of Lunar talking to the camera, her face emotionless.
I hate you, May. You're a coward and a liar. We're over.
No, this can't be. Lunar would never do that to me. Seeing Lunar break up with me on video broke my heart. I tried calling and texting her about 1,000,000 times, but all I got was radio silence. For the next couple of days, I watched as my mother got busy preparing for the wedding. I hated everything about it. Mama tried to cheer me up, but all I did was stay in bed and cry. My face was so puffy, I was sure I'd look ugly in my wedding photos. At the altar, I couldn't control my sobs. I cried and snorted into my bouquet. David tried to comfort me, but I pushed him away so hard he fell into his best man. Who was that guy anyway? I'd never seen him before. I held my breath when the wedding officiant asked if anyone was opposing mine and David's union. I closed my eyes and wished Lunar would burst in and just whisk me away. Just as the officiant was about to continue talking, someone in the crowd lifted their hand and stood up.
I object.
I turned at the familiar voice, and I couldn't believe my eyes. Mama? Of all the people to object to my wedding, Mama was the last person I expected to see.
May, I have a confession. I offered Lunar a lot of money to leave you.
I was speechless. I knew Mama was desperate to see me marry David, but I didn't know just how far she was willing to go.
I thought your relationship with her was just you trying to make me angry. But seeing how sad you've been since she left, I realized my mistake. I'm so sorry, honey. Please go and look for her.
You have my blessing. It's too late, Mama. She already left me.
You're wrong.
Lunar? You're here?
Yes, and I have something to say.
She walked down the aisle carrying a black bag and dropped it in front of Mama and Papa. It was full of cash.
That day David took you away, your mother offered me money. She asked me to stay away from you, but I couldn't. I love you, May. Please, don't marry David.
I ran towards Lunar and kissed her in front of everyone. Cheers erupted around us as I hugged her tightly. I guess the wedding's canceled. Even more cheers and hoots as Mama and other people swarmed around us.
So, what do you girls think about a June wedding?
Mama, would you stop? You're embarrassing me in front of Lunar. We all laughed and hugged each other. I'd never been happier. Our love won.
And now we welcome Miranda Walters to the stage. In case you haven't heard about her before, she's the ultimate brain box, a prodigy, the smartest girl alive.
Another announcer was calling me onto another stage on what must have been my 100th talk show. Everyone cheered and I sat in front of the host next to my mom.
So, Miranda, how did you become so smart?
I was so tired of the same questions over and over again. I was different, an anomaly. And I'll tell you how it all started, but first, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you never miss out on another cool story. Hey, there's still one more thing to do. Hit that notification bell. Great. So, my mom's a neuroscientist. In case you don't know what that is, she studies the brain. Before I was born, she had a dream. She wanted to use her research to create the smartest baby in the world. She convinced my dad to allow her to experiment on her baby, which just so happened to be me. My dad was easygoing and he had a lot of faith in my mom's research, so he let her. No one knows what happened in that lab while she was pregnant with me, but after I was born, everyone realized almost instantly that I was brilliant. By the time I was 5 days old, I could count and recite the alphabet. At 1 month, I could speak clearly, and before I was a year old, I could read books which were written for 5th graders. So I became my mom's contribution to science, her pride and joy. I spent most of my days in her lab, and I never went to school like regular children. My only friend was the neighbor's son, Eddie. It was well known among scientists that my mom had done something revolutionary, but she refused to share her secrets. I guess she was just trying to figure out the right way to do it. And one day, she finally figured it out. When I was 10 years old and finishing my PhD in astrophysics, my mom decided she'd use me to advertise her invention.
But it's not the real one. Of course I'm not sharing my secrets. I might share them with you when you're old enough. Anyway, here's the deal. I'm going to sell a microchip that has to be implanted in the brains of babies while they're still in the womb. I will tell them that this is exactly what I did when I was pregnant with you. I'll explain that it's some scientific phenomenon they'd never understand, and just ask them to trust me. People tend to trust scientists. And I have you as proof.
Okay.
Don't you want to know how much I'm going to sell one for?
How much, Mom?
$100,000. I'm marketing only to the elite. That means we only need to sell 10 to become millionaires. I really think this could work.
That's really cool, but I mean, isn't it a little bit dishonest?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, anyone who is stupid enough to believe that intelligence can be bought deserves to lose their money. You're going to benefit from this too, you know?
Fine, Mom. Do whatever you want. So, I became the face of a revolutionary product my mom began advertising to rich people.
Miranda is 10 years old. She has 4 master's degrees and a PhD. I'm sure you want the same for your children. Invest in the smart baby chip today.
She'd have conventions where she'd explain her invention, and then she'd invite me to speak to the crowd, which was always blown away by my intelligence. In a few months, my mom had made $8 million. She was literally a millionaire.
I told you I could pull this off.
I never doubted you, Mom.
You're so smart. Now I can quit my job.
And he did. Lazy man. We decided not to move out and buy a huge house, although we could afford a luxurious lifestyle now. My mom left most of the money in a savings account. I was grateful that although I was still little, my mom let me decide how some of the money was spent. I wasn't an ordinary little girl who'd ask for toys anyway. I was very practical. We did a lot of traveling, and that was so fun. I could speak almost every language, so it was really exciting for me to be in different countries to practice what I learned. We'd been to 3 regions in India, which was where my mom had her biggest market, China, Vietnam, Singapore, Australia, Ethiopia, Nigeria, and all over Europe. But eventually I became tired of it all. I guess it's because I knew too much too early. I grew up too quickly and I didn't really get to experience what it was like to be a child. I used to see Eddie leave for school every morning and I felt some type of sadness. Sometimes I even wished I'd been born like everyone else. There were days I'd go over to Eddie's house after he came back and I'd bombard him with questions. So what is your teacher like?
She's cool. She gives us presents when we get A's on her tests. She also takes us out on amazing field trips.
What are the kids in your class like?
There's Trent, he's the class clown. He's always making a joke about something silly. Then there's Angelina. She's the smartest girl in the school. And she's cute too. My best friends are Jaden, Harrison, and Billy though. We always hang out during recess. I hope that we get to do the same middle school together, then high school, then maybe even college.
That must be amazing.
What?
To have friends.
Well, you have friends too. You have me.
I became so obsessed with the idea of an ordinary life that one day I set up a little camera and attached it to Eddie's clothes so I could see what happened at school. Of course, I knew everything that was being taught and I could have probably taught the teachers, but it seemed really fun to be around other kids. They were always laughing and playing together. But I never got to experience that, sadly. By the time I was 17, I'd almost given up on the idea of a normal life. Until this one crazy coincidence that changed my life forever. My mom was having another convention in the Netherlands. By this time, she was already a billionaire as she'd sold so many chips. People were convinced they worked somehow, so she just kept getting more and more clients. After meeting a whole bunch of pregnant women who wanted to have smart kids like me, my mom and I went to have a snack at a little coffee shop. I was stuffing my face when I began to feel really thirsty, so I got up and went to order something else. I peeked into the kitchen where the food was being prepared, and my eyes nearly fell out of my head. There was a girl washing the dishes who looked exactly like me. Same size, hair color, eye color, everything. This is my chance, I thought. I called out to her and she came straight away.
Wow, you look just like me,
she said. Yes, that's why I want to speak to you. My name's Miranda, by the way. What's yours?
Mila.
Is this what you do all day? Wash dishes?
Yes, I ran away from home when I was very young, and this is all I can do to make money, really.
I have an idea. How would you like to be a billionaire and travel all over the world?
Well, I'd love that. What's the catch?
No catch, really. You just have to pretend to be me. My mom might not even notice. All she thinks about is money. So let's switch places.
Fine.
I figured her life must have been really miserable for her to agree so quickly. We decided to meet in front of the coffee shop that night to make the switch. When I got there, she was already waiting. I gave her the keys to my hotel room and she gave me the keys to her apartment and explained the directions. We exchanged social media handles too in case we got any difficulties along the way. That was it. I was free. I went back to Mila's awful apartment. It was small and dirty, and one room was the kitchen, a living room, bathroom, and bedroom. I'm gonna make this work, I thought. I checked on Mila to make sure she settled in okay. She texted back immediately.
I'm great. Your mom didn't even notice it wasn't you. This hotel is amazing. The food is great, and this bed is so comfortable. Thank you, Miranda.
Now, I'll admit, that hurt a little bit, but whatever. I was gonna enjoy my new life. I got out my laptop and quickly set up a business writing academic papers for university students. This was really easy for me, as stuff like that only took me a few minutes. In about a month, I'd made enough money to move out of that awful apartment. And then I decided that since I'd been deprived of a high school experience, I'd go to college. Because hey, that's supposed to be fun, right? I saved enough money from my business and enrolled in an arts program at a local college. I couldn't believe I was finally experiencing what I wanted my whole life. I made loads of friends and even started going on dates. The only boy I ever really talked to before was my neighbor Eddie, and I saw him as more of a brother. But now there were so many guys to talk to. OMG, and just do not get me started on the college parties. I had a blast. I was in my second year when I met Steven. He was, well, everything a girl could ask for. Kind, considerate, sweet, smart, and drop-dead gorgeous. Because I was smarter than everyone else, I always thought that it would be really hard to find someone on my level. But Steven was smart too. We never ran out of things to talk about, and that's one of the things I loved most about him. In our final year of college, we decided to move off campus and move in together. I finally felt like I would achieve the dream of completely erasing my past and starting a fresh life. But one night, as we were getting ready to sleep, he suddenly had lots of questions.
How come you never talk about your family?
You never asked?
Well, it's normal for people to mention their family once in a while, but you never do that. That's really weird.
Now, you're probably thinking, I could have lied. But this was the love of my life, and I wanted to be honest with him. I told him the truth, and instead of looking upset, he actually seemed to love me more.
That's a remarkable story, Miranda. Now that you're an adult, don't you think you should go back to visit? I'd love to meet them, but I won't rush you if you're not ready.
I figured that if this was the man I was going to be with for the rest of my life, I might as well introduce him to my family. 2 weeks later, we flew back and I showed up on my doorstep. I rang the bell and my mom and Mila opened the door. My mom looked at the both of us and gasped.
What on earth? Miranda, you're back! Please don't tell me I have to move out. You're not Miranda? No, and I can't believe you never noticed.
Nice reunion, guys. Anyway, Mom, this is my boyfriend, Steven. He wanted to meet my family. Can we come in?
Sure.
My dad was pretty shocked too. It was kind of hilarious. We told him about what had happened in the Netherlands many years ago, and they just stared at us surprised.
That explains a lot. Mila is not smart at all. I lost customers because of her.
You still have money though, Mom, right?
I suppose. I'd already made enough when you decided to leave anyway. I'm happy you've been having a normal life, and I'm sorry for all the stress I put you through. I guess I was only thinking about myself and all the money I wanted to make. I wanted to be known as the best scientist in the world. And I think I am now.
I forgive you, Mom. My mom told me she'd give me half of her fortune to start my life with Steven. He proposed to me a few weeks after we went back to the Netherlands, and now we live a happy, simple life with our 2 children. You're probably wondering what happened to Mila. Well, part of my agreement with Mom involved her. Because after all, she's the one who gave me a shot at a better life. A normal life. Mila was given a few $1 million too, and now she lives in a fancy house in San Diego. She's really happy, and I'm happy for her. We talk all the time, and we become like sisters. Everything worked out well for everyone in the end. Isn't that great?
Jackson this, Jackson that, blah, blah, blah. Ever get so tired of hearing your parents call your name that you feel like gluing their mouths shut while they sleep? Do you think that's a little extreme? I'm sure you don't, because even if your parents aren't annoying like mine, they are annoying, and sometimes you just want to shut them up. Before I continue, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to hit that notification bell too, and you'll be the first to know when we release another exciting story.
Jackson!
My mom screamed again.
You need to change your baby sister's diaper if you want to eat dinner tonight. Unless you want me to contaminate the food. Is that what you want? Baby poop in your pasta? You lazy potato of a boy.
I walked to the living room like I was on my way to my funeral. I didn't hate my baby sister. She was cute. But have you ever changed a diaper? If not, you're lucky. If you have, you know. You just know. Ugh. So I changed the little monster, gave her a toy, and started walking back up to my room.
Jackson, where are you going? Set the table and put your sister in her high chair.
Ugh, Mom, I have homework.
Liar. Hurry up and do what I asked.
At that moment, my dad walked in and started talking too, like somebody invited him into the conversation.
You know, you should be grateful for the roof over your head. We worked really hard to provide for you.
And the rest sounded like blah, blah, blah nonsense. At that moment, I just snapped. You work hard, but you know what you two are. Losers. Why? You're not rich. I shouldn't have to be a third parent to this baby. I shouldn't have to do all this stuff. I should be in my room enjoying my life and playing video games. You know your jobs don't pay much, but you still had another baby. Like, wow, awesome.
Jackson!
My mom shouted. She was surprised and looked like she'd just seen a ghost on a unicycle. Don't Jackson me, I'm tired of your voice. If you two had made a little more effort in life, we could have been rich. You could have been able to hire a maid and a babysitter for Bella. But no, you're just 2 poor losers, I screamed at them. I left the table as it was and marched up to my room.
Oh yeah? Well, why don't you try to do better then?
I heard my dad shout. Well, maybe I will, I screamed back. What an argument, huh? So I went to bed hungry that night, and when I got up the next morning, the first one up, of course, The kitchen sink was full of dirty dishes for me to wash. I left them right there and went to school. All day, I thought about what my dad said. Why don't I try to do better? Well, how can I? I wasn't extremely clever and I didn't know where to start. And then my business teacher gave me a wonderful idea. Unintentionally, of course. He said,
Some of the wealthiest people aren't smart. They just know how to make the right moves. They make all their money off the smart people they employ. You don't have to be smart to be rich. You just have to employ the right people. So, like Willy Wonka and the Oompa Loompas, right?
said Roger, the class clown.
What do you mean? Willy Wonka did nothing. He just reaped the profits while his Oompa Loompas did all the work. Well, that's an interesting perspective. Were they even paid? I think they were kidnapped. So, all I need to do is kidnap some Oompa Loompas.
Everyone laughed at Roger, including me, but then it gave me a bright idea. Oompa Loompas didn't exist, but geniuses did. I looked over to my left where Elijah was sitting. He was the smartest guy in the whole school. He'd won like over 20 spelling bees, science fairs, and other things I'm not nerdy enough to remember. He never got less than 95% on any test. Clearly, this kid was a genius, and soon he'd be my genius. After class, I asked Elijah if he wanted to sit with me at lunch.
With me? Why?
I think you're cool, and plus, I want to ask you something.
Okay.
Later, we sat next to each other and got straight to business. You're really clever, right? You're like the smartest guy in the whole school?
Right, but where are you going with this?
Well, I have a proposal.
What?
Do you want to be rich?
Well, I'm just trying to focus on being a kid for now. Besides, my parents have some money. We're comfortable. They leave me alone and let me do whatever I want.
Whoa, you're lucky. You mean you don't have dirty diapers to change or anything?
No, most of the time I'm studying anyway. I don't have any siblings. I'm an only child.
Okay, but back to my point. I think we should start a business, you and me. We could make so much money.
I'm not really interested, sorry. I'm trying to focus on getting into Princeton. I don't have time. I don't even like business.
But, okay, never mind. How was I going to get Elijah to be my Oompa Loompa if he didn't want to be? And yep, you're right, because you already read the title of this story. I was going to kidnap him. You might be wondering how I did this. Well, it was pretty easy actually. I just invited him to my house after school the next day. My mom and dad were still at work and my baby sister was at daycare, so it was just the two of us. I told him we would play video games and we did that for a little while in my room. Then I realized I needed to get started on my plan before my parents got home. So, Elijah, I'm very sorry to have to do this. It's for your own good. Well, my own good actually.
What are you talking about?
I want to be rich. I caught Elijah by the hands and tied them together very tightly.
Stop! What are you doing?
Be quiet. I got some duct tape and taped his mouth. Luckily, Elijah was a small kid. I, on the other hand, looked like a sumo wrestler in comparison. So here's how it's gonna go. You're gonna think of ways to get us rich. We're gonna start a business or whatever, and I want a few hundreds coming in by next week. He couldn't answer for obvious reasons. I heard my parents opening the door downstairs, so I shoved Elijah into my closet and went downstairs. I didn't bring him any dinner that night, so he'd understand I was serious. The next day, I pretended I was going to school, but I went to a hardware store to buy some things to put in my room to prevent Elijah from getting out. I stole my parents' credit card for this one, of course. When they saw the charge, they'd just think that it was a mistake or get the number changed or whatever. I didn't care. Later, I installed some metal bars on my windows and added a new lock to my bedroom door. My parents wouldn't notice anyway because they never paid any attention to me. When my room was prepared, I took Elijah out of the closet, untied him, and removed the duct tape from his mouth.
You're sick. You're crazy, Jackson. I want to go home.
Well, the sooner you make us rich, the sooner you go home, okay? Put that genius to work, I replied while handing him 3 jelly donuts and a milkshake. You can stay untied for now because I don't know how you're going to do any work all tied up. When you're finished eating, I need you to sit at my computer and brainstorm a few business ideas. Come on, I believe in you.
My parents are going to find me and you're going to be in big trouble.
Whatever, just hurry up, okay? Later, he did what I told him to, but he looked really sad. What's wrong?
Well, I'm not really good at business stuff, but I have an idea.
What?
We could invest in cryptocurrency. I just need about a week to learn everything, and then after I do, I'm sure we could make a lot.
Okay, I don't understand anything about crypto, but that's why I have you. Great, well, start learning. I made sure to disable all the features on my computer that would enable him to communicate with anyone to let them know where he was. The next week, I went to school and left him locked in my room. My parents didn't suspect a thing, and I still managed to do all my chores and take care of my sister with a captive in my room. You think I'm brilliant, don't you? That weekend, we got to work. Elijah asked me for my debit card, and luckily I already had one because I had a little savings account my parents made for me. There was only about $20 in there. We used that little bit of money, and by the end of the weekend, we had already made $300. Good job, buddy, but I need much more money.
Fine.
He sighed. By the end of the next week, Elijah had made $3,000, which you've got to admit is pretty good for a beginner. But I wasn't impressed. You're supposed to be a genius. $3,000? I'm gonna have to keep you here a lot longer. Well, I guess this guy really didn't appreciate my hospitality and my super cool prison bedroom because after the next week, we were up by $10,000. And by the end of the month, we had $100,000. After 3 months, I was a millionaire. I made Elijah write a letter home explaining that he had decided to take some time alone and went to some kind of camping site to clear his head from all the schoolwork he'd been doing. I just didn't want them to worry too much, and I was starting to get nervous about being arrested. I mean, how was I going to enjoy all my money in prison? After we hit the second million, I made him this proposal. We're too young to buy a house, but we can pose as adults to get a deal far away from here. I'm sick of my parents and I want to leave this stupid house. Then, when we move into our place, we can continue making money. Instead of this kidnapper-kidnappee relationship, we could be business partners. I mean, I'm really sorry about what I did to you and I hope you can forgive me, but in a way, you gotta be thankful, no? You've seen what you can do. You don't even need to go to Princeton. You're already a millionaire.
So how would we share the profits then?
50-50.
Fine.
We started looking for a house online and we bought one without even going to see it first. We made fake ID cards pretending to be much older men, and it was all so easy. I packed my bags one Saturday morning while my parents were having breakfast with my little sister and walked out the door with Elijah.
Where are you going, son?
My dad asked. To my new mansion, loser. I'll send you a postcard. You told me to try to do better than you, didn't you? Well, I did.
Who was that other kid? You never introduced us. When did he even get here?
My mom said. That's my business partner. Bye, Mom. Bye, Dad. Your millionaire son is off to live a better life. They looked so confused as our luxury Uber came to pick us up. When we got to our house, I felt a sense of freedom and excitement that I'd never felt before. We set up our special little crypto office with a whole bunch of computers and stuff, and continued our work. Instead of letting Elijah do everything, I sat with him and made an effort to learn. We both worked almost all day, and the millions kept rolling in. Well, I've got to admit that at first I lost a lot more than I made, but after I learned, I started to earn more bit by bit. Then one day, just like that, Elijah disappeared. I think he snuck out in the middle of the night one night. I was looking for him everywhere the next day, but I couldn't find him. I thought he might have gone back to his parents' house because he missed them during the, unfortunate kidnapping incident, but he wasn't there. I searched everywhere, but he was nowhere to be found. That guy knew he was going to leave someday. He tricked me. Now what am I gonna do? Can I continue to make a fortune by myself? I thought. I went back to my mansion and continued working. Luckily, I had learned enough from Elijah, and I already had lots of money saved up. Years later, after I had already started a family and was living with my wonderful wife and 2 kids, I heard a knock at my door. I opened it, and a huge man punched me and dragged me out to a car that was waiting outside. The driver sped away, and I heard a voice from the front seat.
Hi, Jackson.
It sounded so familiar. Could it be Elijah?
We meet again, huh?
What are you doing? Let me out.
No, I worked for you, now you will work for me.
I was blindfolded, and hours later I was taken to a little room in what felt like a high-rise building. The blindfold was removed, and I saw Elijah's smiling face looking down at me.
I own this building, and no one will ever find you here because it's a secret room. I've made a fortune, and actually I don't need you to work for me. I just need you to stay here and think about your life. What you did to me was horrible, and you need to experience it too. I might let you out after a few years, if I feel like it.
But I'm sorry, I was only a kid. Please, forgive me.
No. Anyway, here are some jelly donuts and a milkshake.
He winked. So here I am now, writing this story as a captive. But I guess it's karma.
Honey, I'd like you to meet Alyssa. I extended my hand, and Alyssa smiled as she shook it.
It's nice to meet you, Candace. I've heard so much about you.
Dad's phone buzzed. Please excuse me, I have to take this. Alyssa nodded, and Dad left the room. Alyssa suddenly leaned towards me.
If you don't do as I say, I'll make your life a living nightmare.
Hi there, I'm Candace from Ireland. Please like and subscribe. When I was 3, Mom passed away from an illness, and it's just been Dad and I ever since. Dad and I were very close. He always treated me like his little princess, and we'd get manis and petties together, go to the movies. He'd even set up my dolls and stuffed animals, and we'd pretend that we were runaway models. When I was 15, Dad introduced me to his girlfriend Alyssa, and 6 months later, they were married. She did and said all the right things when Dad was around.
Ethan, I think it's time Candace got her own computer.
Or,
I think Candace and I should have a girls' day out.
she'd always blink flirtatiously at Dad, and he was swooned by her charm. But he had no idea how evil she really was when he wasn't around. One weekend, Dad was out of town for business. I was in my room when Alyssa burst in and threw a waitress's outfit on my bed.
Put this on and meet me downstairs. You'll be the waitress tonight at my party, or I'll tell your father you were out past your curfew.
I groaned as Alyssa walked out. I quickly got dressed and went downstairs. I didn't want to be around Alyssa's friends, so I did everything possible for her to send me back to my room. First, I dropped a tray of salmon platters on a guest. Then I accidentally pulled off the wig of a man who was flirting with Alyssa, and finally, during dinner, I poured wine into Alyssa's lap instead of her wine glass.
Look what you did, you worthless child!
She stood up furiously. Get out of here! I smiled slyly, walked upstairs, and locked myself in my room for the rest of the night. The next day, I came home from school and Dad found all the pictures of Mom, Dad, and I torn to pieces on my bed. Alyssa was standing in my bedroom doorway with an evil snarl on her face.
You don't need those pictures anymore. Your dad is happy with me.
Immediately, I called Dad on the phone and told him what had happened.
Candace, they are just pictures. You should have had them stored on your computer.
Dad, she tore up my pictures. How could you take her side?
She was upset after you embarrassed her in front of her friends. I'm sure she didn't mean it. Candace, I have to go. I have a meeting in 5 minutes. I'll see you tomorrow.
The line went dead. I looked at my phone in disbelief. I don't even know why I bothered to call Dad anyway. He never took my side. 2 years later, I got accepted into the college of my dreams. I was excited because it meant I didn't have to live under the same roof as Alyssa. As soon as Dad got home that afternoon, I rushed down the stairs and shoved the letter into his hands. I got in! I got in! Dad read the letter, and instead of excitement, a wave of regret washed over his face.
Sorry, Candace, but I can't afford the tuition for this college. I gave all the money from your college fund to Alyssa to start her business.
You did what? Grandma left that money for me. How could you?
Look, you can still go to community college.
Alyssa handed me a brochure.
At least you'll still get a college education.
On the first day of college, the unthinkable happened. It was the last class of the day. I sat in my chair, but suddenly the world turned sideways. The chair leg broke and I collapsed on the floor. I kept my eyes closed but prayed that no one had seen me, but I wasn't that lucky.
Hey, are you okay?
My eyes fluttered open and I looked into the eyes of the cutest guy I'd ever seen. As he helped me up, I felt the eyes of the other students boring into my skull. Immediately, the bell rang and I hustled from the classroom.
Hey, wait up! Hey, I'm Darian. Are you sure you're okay?
My ego is a bit bruised, but I'll be okay. I smiled shyly.
I'll see you around.
I nodded and Darian went off to meet his friends. Over the next few days, Darian and I became friends. It was nice to have something to keep my mind off my evil stepmother and her treacherous ways. We went hiking, the zoo, the mall, practically anywhere that didn't have Alyssa there. One evening when Darian dropped me off, Alyssa grilled me.
Who is that boy that keeps dropping you off? Where are you coming from? What were you doing together?
You are not my mother, and I don't have to answer to you. I slammed my bedroom door behind me. One afternoon, after confirming my date with Darian to the movies, I spun around to head to my room when I saw Alyssa standing in the doorway of the kitchen.
And where do you think you're going?
You were listening to my conversation, so why not tell me? I smirked.
I forbid you to go.
Good luck with that. About 30 minutes later, Darian pulled into the driveway. Alyssa was nowhere to be seen, and I thought that was the last I'd see of her that day. But boy, was I wrong. About 15 minutes into the movie, a woman sat down next to Darian. Suddenly, she reached out and grabbed his hand. Darian looked over at the woman.
What are you doing?
He tried to pull his hand away, but the woman locked her fingers into his. I glanced over and realized it was Alyssa. Alyssa, what are you doing? I leaned over Darian and tried to get Alyssa off of him.
Hey! Can you guys in the front keep it down? We're trying to watch a movie here.
I jumped on Alyssa and we began to fight while poor Darian tried to tear us apart. Within a few minutes, 2 ushers threw us out of the cinema and onto the streets. Alyssa cackled when the ushers went inside.
My work here is done.
She jumped into her car and drove off. I was so angry I thought I'd explode. I couldn't believe Alyssa would do something like that. Home was the last place I wanted to be, so Darian and I stayed out until 1 a.m. When I got to the front door and turned my key, nothing happened. I tried the kitchen door and it was the same. That witch changed the locks. I banged on the kitchen door, but Alyssa refused to open the door. I found a big stone in the yard and I smashed the kitchen window. I pushed my hand through the hole, unlocked the window, opened it, and climbed through. Suddenly, Alyssa was in the doorway of the kitchen, screaming to someone on the phone.
Someone just broke into my house! Hurry, please!
Alyssa came charging at me with a bat. Alyssa, stop, it's me! She swung at me and I saw stars as she hit me in the head. You'd think I'd be dazed by the hit, but I was enraged. Like a bull staring at a red cloth, I charged at Alyssa. I landed some punches on her stomach and face, and Alyssa got in a few lucky blows herself. We were pulled apart a few minutes later by 2 police officers.
What's going on here?
She changed the locks on the door, then she assaulted me with a bat. I tried to grab Alyssa again, but the officer held me back. The officer turned to me.
Do you want to make an official report and press charges?
Before I could respond, Alyssa whimpered.
Officer, I woke up to the sound of shattered glass. That's when I grabbed my phone to call the police and a bat to defend myself. I love my stepdaughter. Why would I want to harm her?
After the officers took our statements and left, I went to my room, hopped into bed, and fell fast asleep. I was too tired to even deal with Alyssa right now. The next day, when Dad returned home, he was furious.
Alyssa told you couldn't go out, and in retaliation, you broke the kitchen window? Candace, you can't abide by the rules of this house. Then you will have to leave.
But Dad, she's the one.
I've had enough of your excuses. You're walking on a fine line, Missy.
You always take her side. The next day at college, I met Darian by the benches under the trees. I explained everything that had happened. What am I gonna do?
Find your own place. At least you'll be comfortable there.
Sounds nice, but Dad only gives me money for school. Where am I gonna get money for a place?
I'll help you get a job and I'll help you pay some of the bills.
You don't have to do that.
I know, but I want to do it for the woman I love.
My eyes widened. You love me? Darian leaned in and kissed me. I was thrilled. After a few seconds, we pulled away.
I think we should get to class. We don't want to be late.
Darian winked and my heart felt very warm. As promised, Darian helped me get a part-time job at the post office. I gave Darian all the money I made from work to put into his savings account. I couldn't risk Dad or Alyssa finding it and spending it. It wasn't long after Darian asked me to be his girlfriend, and of course I said yes. A few months later, I finally saved enough money to make a deposit and the first month's rent on an apartment.
Candace, I don't think that you've thought this through,
Dad said as he paced the living room.
Baby, let the child go. She isn't of any use here anyway. But let her only take the things that she purchased since she wants to be a grown-up.
I packed my books, laptop, and the few pieces of clothing that I had bought myself. As I opened the front door to leave, Dad said softly,
"You are welcome to return when you adjust your attitude."
Alyssa stood next to Dad.
It's like the trash is taking itself out,
she whispered to me, unheard by Dad. I shook my head and walked out the door. Living on my own was superb. I didn't have Alyssa watching over me, and Darian came over every day. I didn't have much, but I had everything that I needed. About 2 weeks later, while studying in the kitchen, I heard a key turn in the front door. Immediately, I called Darian and armed myself with a curling iron. While on the phone with Darian, a man and a woman holding a baby stepped into the apartment. When they saw me, they stopped in their tracks. "Why do you have a key to my apartment? Who are you?" I waved the curling iron frantically and dropped the phone in the process.
We just paid the landlord the first month's rent and the deposit, and he handed us the keys.
There must be some mistake. He probably gave you the wrong keys because I already paid for this apartment. I invited the family to sit while I attempted to contact the landlord, but I only got his voicemail. A few minutes later, Darian arrived with the police. We explained the situation and showed the officers a picture of the landlord.
"I'm sorry, ma'am, but this man is wanted for numerous types of fraud. Every time we've gotten close, he slips through our fingertips. Sorry to say this, but you'll have to vacate this apartment since it's likely this isn't his property."
Once the officers left, followed by the family, I sank into the sofa and buried my head in my hands. What am I gonna do?
You can come home and stay with me. Darian squeezed my hand softly. I nodded gratefully. That night, I moved out my things and moved into Darian's apartment. Things soon settled down, but then, like most things in my life, they took a sudden turn. One night, while watching television, Darian burst into the apartment. Candace, your dad has been admitted to the hospital. I flew up from the sofa. What happened? Not sure, but a friend of mine who works at the hospital told me. Grab your jacket, let's go. At the hospital, Darian and I were directed to Dad's room. I expected to see Alyssa there, but she wasn't. Dad was unconscious when we arrived. The doctors said Dad complained about a stomachache, and when they checked him out, it was too late. He had a massive tumor wrapped around his intestines and other internal organs, and they weren't able to move it. I was devastated. Alyssa never visited Dad at the hospital. Dad never opened his eyes again, but I knew he heard me because tears ran down his cheeks when I told him that I loved him. Dad passed away a few days later. Weeks passed, and finally it was Dad's funeral at the cemetery. Alyssa suddenly turned up and wailed as if she hadn't been absent all throughout this time in the hospital. She stood close to the burial hole while they were piling dirt onto the casket.
Baby, please don't leave me. I wish I could go with you.
I scoffed. Where were you when he was at the hospital? Because you have a crowd, you were pretending that you care about Dad?
I loved your dad, and I did everything possible to make him happy.
Ha! You did everything to make you happy. At least he doesn't have to deal with a crazy piece of trash like you anymore. Alyssa slapped me and I grabbed her hair and slammed her face into the dirt. Alyssa and I began to fight, and Darian and some other members pulled us apart. I hate you, Alyssa, I screamed as Darian dragged me away. A few days later, at the reading of Dad's will, Alyssa inherited everything. I knew I shouldn't have been surprised, but it still hurt. I walked out of the reading of the will, and Darian caught up with me in the parking lot. I'm gonna fight that witch for the will.
Babe, don't. Those are just material things. Don't contest the will. Alyssa hired the best lawyer in town. She will win. She's hurt you enough, and I don't like to see you like this.
Yeah, maybe you're right. Over the next few days, Darian paid for me to stay at a hotel and be pampered, while I gathered my thoughts. Even though Dad and I didn't get along, I sure did miss him. I decided to leave the hotel earlier than expected and decided to grab coffee at the cafe before I headed back to the apartment. As I sat there reading the newspaper, my heart stopped when I heard Darian's voice, followed by Alyssa's.
How much longer do we have to pay this charade?
That was Alyssa. I lifted the newspaper a bit higher to ensure they didn't recognize me.
Not much longer, babe. John will be here in a few minutes to tell us our last job.
What was Darian doing here?
It was our luck that the doctors detected that tumor, and we didn't have to take the other route to get rid of her father.
My heart skipped a beat. Alyssa and Darian had planned to get rid of Dad? A few seconds later, I heard another voice at the table.
Hey guys, I'm sorry I'm late.
I peeked to the side of the newspaper and my jaw dropped. It was the landlord of my first apartment. Darian and Alyssa had been behind this all along. I was furious. We have one more job to do tomorrow, and we'll be out of here. I sat there and listened as Alyssa, Darian, and the landlord discussed how they were going to rob a jewelry store and the warehouse they were going to meet at after to get the jewels off their hands. I breathed a sigh of relief when about an hour later, the three of them got up and walked out of the cafe. I left about 15 minutes later and went back to the hotel. The first thing I did was hire a hacker to hack into the banking system. I told him if he did the job successfully, that he'd get 30% of whatever Darian had in his account. After he got his share, he wired a hefty sum of $250,000 to an offshore account, which he created under a false alias for me. The next night, dressed in all black, I watched from afar as Darian and the landlord robbed the jewelry store as planned. As they made their way to the warehouse, I contacted the police and gave them an anonymous tip that not only did I know who the jewelry thieves were, but they were having an auction tonight to get rid of the jewels. I parked about a block away from the warehouse and walked the rest of the way. From the rooftop, about 2 warehouses away, I laid on the roof and watched through my binoculars as police raided the warehouse and dragged John, Darian, Alyssa, and a few others from the warehouse into police jeeps. A smile curved my lips as the police jeeps pulled out of the warehouse parking lot. All unfair games must come to an end. Well played, Candace. Well played.
Angela, don't forget the party tomorrow night. You're gonna be there, right?
Yeah, of course.
I can't wait. We're gonna have a blast.
I was bursting with joy inside, but you couldn't really tell just by looking at my face. I had finally been invited to a party by Jessica, the most popular girl in our class. Before I continue my story, please hit that like button and someday you'll get invited to the most awesome party ever. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. So where was I? I was telling you about how excited I was to finally get invited to a party. You might think that this is quite silly, but you'll understand after I tell you a little more about my life. I'm a real nerd. And I don't mean that in a bad way because I don't think it's insulting to be called a nerd. Instead of hanging around people, I preferred to read books and to learn every possible thing that I could. Well, the result of that was that I ended up being the smartest kid in class. Everyone knew me as the smart kid because I represented my school in almost every single competition and I won every time. The spelling bee, science fair, robotics challenges, everything. So the popular crowd probably thought I wasn't cool. As I became older, I wished I had friends who would ask me to hang out or whatever. I had no one to talk to at home because the only people who lived there were my mom, dad, and brother Gary. Gary was a few years older than me, but he was boring, and he just spent most of his time playing video games. My life changed one afternoon in high school, in the middle of English class. Our teacher had asked us to write a short essay about what we desired the most, and I wrote about wanting to be loved and accepted for who I was, and also that I wanted friends. I thought my class would laugh at me, but surprisingly, they didn't. Then Jessica raised her hand and said,
I'll be your friend.
What? At first, I thought she was joking. I was hoping for some average friends, but the most popular girl at school? After class, we exchanged numbers, and she promised to send me a message that night. I waited up for a long time, and just as I was about to go to sleep, a light flashed on my phone.
Hi, Angie. It's Jessica. Want to hang out during lunch tomorrow?
Sure.
See you tomorrow. Can't wait.
I turned off my phone, and before I fell asleep, I thought about how awesome my life was about to be. Was I going to have girlfriends to talk to? Go shopping with? Have sleepovers with? It was surreal. The next day, I floated through my morning classes, and when it was lunchtime, I ran over to Jessica's table in the cafeteria.
What are you doing here?
She asked. You asked me to hang during lunch today.
Oh yeah, Angela, right? Do you like apples?
She handed me an apple and then introduced me to all her friends who were all a grade above us. They seemed friendly, but one really caught my eye. His name was Aiden, and he was gorgeous. I couldn't look directly in his eyes, but I felt him staring at me the whole time.
So?
Jessica whispered. Yes?
There are some conditions to this friendship arrangement.
It's an arrangement? I thought you really wanted to be my friend. I stared at her blankly.
I do, but there are always conditions in a friendship. You'd know that if you ever had friends. Anyway, you're really smart, and I'm really popular. You scratch my back, I scratch yours.
I'm not too sure I understand what you mean.
You can do my homework, my projects, write my college applications, and all that boring stuff. And I'll ensure that you never miss another party again. I'll introduce you to many new people and transform your social life.
But if I do all of your work, you won't learn anything. Aren't you worried about that?
Not really. My parents are rich. I'll just inherit my mom's cosmetic company.
Something about this arrangement felt wrong, but I agreed anyway. I was tired of being a lonely loser. So this is how it started. Double the homework, double the projects, double the pressure. I did it all for a few weeks, and I didn't really feel too overwhelmed because it was easy for me. I was able to sit with Jessica and her friends every day. They invited me to the mall, to their houses, and to a few parties. And I could balance it all. Double the workload and an awesome social life. Then it all became a little more difficult when Mr. Harris, my science teacher, decided to overwhelm me some more.
Hey, I have something for you that might look good on your college applications.
What's that?
I'd like you to be my teaching assistant.
Oh, that sounds interesting. What do I have to do?
Prepare all my PowerPoint presentations, mark all my papers, set up the laboratory before classes, put all the students' grades into the system.
He went on, and my eyes opened wide. So, you mean you want me to do your job for you?
Well, you're so clever you could probably do it better. But no, I'll still be doing some things.
Like what?
Do you want to do this or not?
I don't know why, but I agreed. He was right. It really would look good on my college applications. As I walked away with my arms full of books and papers to mark for Mr. Harris, I bumped into, guess who? Aiden. I was so startled that I dropped everything on the floor and started blushing. He looked at me, started laughing, and bent down to pick up my stuff. Thanks, Aiden. I smiled shyly.
Hey, I was thinking, do you want to maybe hang out sometime?
Sure.
How's tomorrow at 6? I'll pick you up if you send me your address. Here's my number.
He gave me his number and winked.
Bye, Angela. See you tomorrow. I'll plan something fun for us.
I couldn't concentrate on anything for the rest of the day. The hottest guy at school had just asked me out. Me? The person who, just a few months ago, had no social life, no friends, no nothing. Me. Angela, the girl who had never been invited to a party. Well, life was taking an awesome turn. Hey, have you hit that like button yet? Awesome. When I got home that night, I tried to mark Mr. Harris's papers, but it was really hard to focus. I kept imagining myself gazing into Aiden's eyes while sitting on a boat in the middle of Venice. There were violinists on board, and they were playing us a romantic song, and...
Angela!
What?
I've been calling you for the past 5 minutes. What are you thinking about? Science?
My brother Gary laughed. Wow, I guess you fell out of bed and hit your head so hard that a sense of humor was knocked into it. What do you want?
I need help with this math question.
He handed me his notebook, and I finished the problem for him in a few seconds. He grabbed his book back, poked his tongue out at me, and left the room. I got back to Mr. Harris's papers, then did my science and English homework, and Jessica's Spanish and math. Then I fell asleep and dreamt about Aiden some more. The next day, I handed Jessica her homework in the morning.
Where's my history paper? It's due today.
I thought you said it was due next week.
I made a mistake. So, where is it?
I was going to do it this weekend.
You're the worst. You're so useless. I'm going to fail this class because of you. You can't hang out with me at lunch today. I don't know how I'll ever be able to forgive you.
She stormed off into the other direction. I was sad. I'd really been trying my best, and people just kept giving me piles of work. At least I had my date with Aiden to look forward to. I couldn't wait. After school, I rushed home to get ready. I put on a flattering pink dress and my nicest jewelry. I spent about an hour curling my hair, putting on makeup, and trying to decide which perfume smelled the best. When I was finally ready, it was 6 o'clock. I looked out of my bedroom window and Aiden was already there. Bye, Mom. Bye, Dad.
You finally have a date. Bye, sweetie.
My dad said. I was thankful that he was cool about that. Aiden got out of his car and opened my door. Aw, you're such a gentleman, I blushed.
Only for the best girls.
He replied, and I wasn't sure how to interpret that. He went for a drive and then he took me to an old junkyard. I was confused. Why are we here?
Well, I have a special memory in this place, and I wanted to share it with a special person.
Aw, I thought. He explained that when he was younger, his parents were always arguing because they were going through a divorce. When he got sad, he would run to this spot and just sit around looking at all the old, discarded pieces of scrap metal. He'd imagine that they all came to life, and in his mind, he made movies with all of them. I thought it was super cute and interesting, and I felt really warm inside that he shared something so personal and sensitive with me. After that, he took us to a drive-in theater and we watched a movie. We shared some popcorn and a soda, and it was so romantic. I couldn't believe this was actually happening, but I was sad that he hadn't tried to kiss me. I had never been kissed before, and I was hoping that this would be the night. Finally, he drove to a scenic spot on the mountain, and we looked down at the view below. It was so beautiful looking at the lights flickering everywhere and the stars twinkling above. It was magical, and I was in love. We got out of the car, and he put his arm around me. Just as I thought he was about to pull me in for a kiss, he said,
So, I have this literature project that I need some help with. Well, actually, I was wondering if you could do it for me?
What?
I'm trying to get this sports scholarship to go to college. My parents told me they'll hurt me if I don't get it, but I hate reading and writing. I really can't do this project. But if I don't pass literature, I'm a goner. I won't get it.
Okay, I'll do it for you. What is it about? I know you're probably thinking I was ridiculous for accepting and that he only asked me out so I'd do his work. But I just wanted to know for once what it was like to be a really happy teenager who had popular friends and dated hot guys. The next week, Jessica started talking to me again, but it's mostly because she had some essay deadlines coming up and she needed help. So I worked on my own assignments, Jessica's and Aiden's, and to top it all off, Mr. Harris kept adding more to my workload. I reached a point where I thought my head was going to pop. Then, do you know what I saw? I was leaving the science lab late one afternoon. I just finished marking a bunch of papers for Mr. Harris. As I walked through the corridor, I spotted Aiden. He was holding hands with Jessica and speaking softly. I walked quietly behind them so I could hear what they were saying.
You are so right about Angela. She's done all my work, and I'm getting good grades. Looks like I'm gonna get into that college after all.
Correction. We are gonna get into that college together. It's sad that Angela thinks we're actually her friends. She's so silly and delusional.
They stopped walking and turned to face each other. Then, right in front of my face, they kissed.
I love you.
Jessica smiled. Then she turned her head and realized I had been standing there the whole time.
Angela? How long have you been there?
Long enough to hear everything.
I'm sorry?
She said and then laughed. Aiden laughed too, and I couldn't believe I had been stupid enough to fall for both of their lies. I ran home and cried all night. I was tired of everyone using me. Jessica, Aiden, my teachers, and even my own brother were only interested in talking to me when they wanted something. Nobody really cared about me. I was so upset. You know what I did next? The next day, when I got to school, I went straight to the principal's office and told him everything. He called in Jessica and Aiden's teachers, and I told them about every single assignment I had done for them. They were both given zeros for those courses and were given detention and community service. I had to do community service too because the principal decided I needed to be punished for lying. I didn't mind though. The satisfaction of Jessica and Aiden failing was enough for me. After that experience, I learned that those who are meant for us find us eventually. Maybe I will never meet my type of people in high school, but I'm sure I will later on in life. There's no use being sad and miserable just to be considered normal. So I'm back to being a full-time nerd. Books are my boyfriends, and I like it that way.
That theory was disproved a long time ago. Your equation is wrong. You teachers disappoint me all the time.
Stuart, that's no way to talk to your teacher. You've been warned about this before.
So I'm just supposed to sit here and listen to you go on and on about nonsense? I got out of my seat, grabbed a whiteboard marker, and retaught the mathematical concept that Mr. Bryan had been trying to teach the class. When I was done explaining, everyone looked like they understood. See? Easy as pie. And you said you had a PhD. In what? Bluffing?
Get out of my class! I've had enough of your disorderly behavior. I'll be calling your parents in tomorrow.
I shrugged. I guess he wasn't happy that I'd helped him out. No one ever was. But this is a story about how I eventually got my revenge, and you need to stick around until the end to find out how. Boy, did I make everyone suffer. My parents came to my school the next day. We all met in the principal's office with that annoying Mr. Bryan.
Your son has no respect for authority. What did you do this time, Stuart?
I simply explained a concept that he was teaching incorrectly.
This young man disrupted my class. I was teaching quite correctly, thank you.
I mean, you need to have better interviews when you're hiring teachers. This guy has no idea what he's talking about. Have you even seen his qualifications? How do you know they're not fake? My parents are spending a lot of money to send me here, you know. We expect a quality education. I shouldn't have to teach your classes. Are you going to start paying me a salary? Because I think you should.
You see, Mr. and Mrs. Jonas, this is the attitude we have to put up with every day. Stuart has no respect for authority and is extremely arrogant. We acknowledge that he's very intelligent, but this attitude won't take him very far.
Like, did he just ignore everything I just said? Anyway, this meeting ended with my mom defending me and my principal threatening to kick me out for any other offenses. When we got home, they did let me have it though.
We defend you in public, but the truth is, you're really giving us a headache, son.
What? How?
We really are paying a lot to send you to that elite school. I know you don't always agree with them, but could you please try and be a bit calmer?
But Mom, they're so annoying.
Just try.
So I thought I'd make an effort just for my parents, especially my mom. My previous school was worse. It was an ordinary public school, and I didn't find it challenging at all. It felt like preschool work, and in my freshman year, I'd already mastered all the senior level content. My parents decided to transfer me to an elite school for high school students who were ready for college level content. All the teachers had doctorates and were supposed to be the best in the country. The school was really modern and looked like something out of the future. My dad had also taken an extra job to help cover the tuition. Now, although I'm pretty clever, I wasn't your typical nerd. I'm tall, muscular, and drop-dead gorgeous. I don't wear glasses either. No offense to my four-eyed viewers. As soon as I transferred to that school, I felt like a celebrity. All the girls were drooling over me, and I pretty much had my pick of whoever I wanted. But unlike your typical handsome dudes, I didn't care too much about looks. I was attracted to the intelligence, and I immediately fell for the smartest girl in my class, Millie. She was a cute, short girl with black hair, brown eyes, and the most humongous glasses I'd ever seen in my life. When I asked her out the first time, it was hilarious.
You want to go out with me?
Yes, Millie.
But you can get any other girl you want. Why me?
You're the most beautiful in my eyes, and you're so smart, and you have a wonderful personality.
Is this some kind of joke?
Well, go out with me once and you'll find out. I winked at her and she blushed. She agreed, and when I took her out, I made sure that our first date was memorable. I gave her a dozen roses, lots of chocolate, then we went to a museum. Smart chicks dig that stuff. So she was convinced it wasn't a joke, and a month later, she agreed to be my girlfriend. All this to say, my high school life was going great. I was gorgeous, I had a girlfriend, and I was smart. I just hated the teachers because I thought they were so dumb. I decided to take my mom's advice and be a little calmer, but that didn't last very long. My biology teacher, Miss Thompson, was teaching something about the latest research in biochemistry research, but her sources were outdated. That's wrong, Mrs. Thompson.
What do you mean that's wrong?
Your sources are outdated. I was just reading up on this last night. Here's why your research is flawed. I got out of my seat and taught the class again. She stood in a corner and her pale face quickly changed to red. You see, please do the proper research before coming to class. There's no excuse for this sloppy type of teaching. Our parents are paying you to be lazy.
He's right. Wow, Stuart, you're so smart. The two of you get out of my class right now. You think you're the Bonnie and Clyde of the education system, huh? Get out. I am so sick of you students thinking you're better than me. Maybe you should all just stay home and teach yourselves. Ugh.
Millie and I went outside while she continued her tantrum. Now, I knew that something like this would happen eventually and that they'd call my parents to tell them I'd finally been expelled. To avoid this whole situation, I had reprogrammed my parents' phones. If the school called, they'd hear a pre-recorded message that my parents knew nothing about. I used previous voice recordings of my mom's voice to make the perfect responses. What? He got in trouble again? So he's expelled now? Okay, thanks for the information. After being summoned to the principal's office alone and being told that this was the last straw and that my parents had already been informed, I told him goodbye and went to look for Millie, who was still waiting for me in the hallway. Do you want to spend the day with me or do you want to wait until your next class?
Let's go do something fun.
We left school and went to a small carnival. We ate loads of sugary snacks and fed each other cotton candy. We went into a haunted house and we even rode a merry-go-round. It was magical. Until we decided it was time to go home and I had to answer the difficult questions.
So what are you gonna do now?
My parents have no idea I've been kicked out and I'm not going to tell them. I'll leave home like normal every morning and I'll think about the rest later. Don't worry. But all I know for sure is that I'm going to destroy that school. I'm going to make sure they never recover. She gave me a smile which let me know that she had faith in my plan, or the lack of it. It's great to have a partner who supports you. I walked her to her house, kissed her goodbye, then I went home. I walked in and my parents were already seated at the dinner table having a random, boring conversation.
Hey, son, I was just explaining to your mother that dolphins aren't as friendly as they're portrayed to be. They can be so dangerous. Did you know that?
Yeah, they have teeth and they'll bite you.
Well, I think they're cute. Did you have a good day?
Yeah, perfect. I learned so much today. They didn't suspect a thing. The next day, I left home like normal and took a bus to nowhere. I didn't know where I was going. I just paid for a ticket and left. I just wanted to make sure I wouldn't be found by my parents or recognized by any of our neighbors. When I reached the final stop, I got off the bus and went to a coffee shop. I sat down and thought of a plan. I was going to start an online business to see if I could make some extra money. But I was also going to start a blog which would totally sabotage the school that kicked me out. I started working on marketing my blog on social media. When I was sure I had enough followers, I started posting all kinds of stuff. And by all kinds, I mean the worst possible kinds. And this was how it went every day. I'd spend half the day on my business and the other half on the blog. I started the first rumor that the school paid exam companies for exam scripts, and that's why they had excellent scores. The students were all cheating, and the teachers were helping them to do it. The fake news spread like wildfire, and the principal decided to address it publicly. He tried to persuade the public that it wasn't true, but I don't think that many people believed him. That was just the first week. But I wasn't satisfied with just that, so I made up a story that he was having an affair with Miss Thompson, that awful science teacher I hated. They were both married, so I knew it would be super harmful. Did I care? No. I wanted to destroy them. I used my excellent Photoshop skills to create fake pictures of the two of them, kissing in a dark alley, making out in a classroom, having dinner together. It was scandalous. I released one a day just to be extra dramatic, and by the end of the week, the story was all over the news. Both of their spouses were planning to divorce them, and they were both confused as hell. It was so satisfying. My followers grew every single day, and after a while, media companies would report on what I had posted. Nobody knew I was behind it, and the thrill was awesome. By the end of the first month, the school had lost several students, but that wasn't enough for me. I wanted the place to be shut down, so I targeted random teachers and constructed horrible fake pasts for them that I published to the blog. The English teacher? Well, he used to be in prison for drug possession. The math teacher? He harms cute animals for fun. The social studies teacher? She'd been fired from every other job in the past for stealing. How could people feel safe while their children were surrounded by criminals? I made it as persuasive as possible. None of these stories were true, but I made them so believable. They lost more students, but I didn't realize that my actions could have ridiculous consequences for me. Because when I got home after the end of another successful week, my parents were fuming.
How come you haven't told us what's going on at your school?
I thought you knew. It's everywhere.
Cheating for exams? And now the staff? They're having affairs with each other?
And a teacher who's been in prison? And another one who was a thief?
I don't want you to go to that school anymore. We're going to get you a transfer next week.
No, I screamed, and that was when it hit me. My perfect days at the coffee shop were coming to an end. I had done this to myself. Oh well. So just like that, I was off to school again the next week. I was really annoyed because I didn't want to have to deal with stupid teachers again. But this place was a lot more pleasant. It was a private school, but I wouldn't describe it as elite. It was very colorful and everyone there seemed so friendly, like they ate rainbows and sunshine for breakfast. I tried to settle into my classes without annoying any teachers, but the truth is that they weren't half bad. I decided to focus on preparing for college, and just when I felt like I had my life in order again, I got some more good news from Millie. She called me one night while I was finishing some homework.
Stuart, you did it!
What?
They're shutting down the school. The principal was fired some time ago, and they couldn't find anyone to replace him because no one wanted to. It's too much of a mess.
Whoa.
And guess what?
What?
I'm transferring to your school next week. We'll be together again. I can't wait.
Wow, that's wonderful news. I couldn't believe my luck. I had successfully destroyed that school, and my girlfriend was going to be in my class at my new school. You're probably wondering if I felt any regret for destroying the teachers' lives, and the truth is that I don't. This is just what happens when you mess with a smart person. I hope they learn their lesson. I took a great big bite of my burger and smiled at my girlfriend, Natasha. I've been looking forward to this all day.
Oh my god, Paul. You and your food. What do you like?
Don't tell me you haven't been looking forward to coming to this place too.
Well, I have and I haven't.
What do you mean?
Well, of course I love coming here. I mean, we do come every Saturday night, but I haven't been looking forward to having to tell you something.
What is it? I noticed that Natasha took a deep breath. Come on, tell me what it is. You're starting to worry me now.
Don't freak out, okay? Look, I'm moving schools.
What? No. Why? Pause. First, make sure you like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. Then you might end up in the smartest school in the world too.
I've been accepted into the smartest school in the world.
But that school is miles away from here. I'll never see you.
I'm sorry, Paul, but it's a great opportunity for me. I have to go.
From the first time I met Natasha, it was obvious that she was super smart. I should have known that one day she would move to a better school. I was going to miss her so much. She was the perfect girlfriend, and I was going to miss her so much. When are you leaving?
I start there on Monday.
What? But that means I've only got tomorrow to spend with you.
Actually, this is the last time I can see you. I have so much to get ready tomorrow, things to prepare. I won't have any time to see you.
I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I felt as though my heart had been ripped out of my chest. Natasha, I'm going to miss you so much. I know you have to go, but I can't help feeling so sad about it.
I'll miss you too. Look, I have to go now. Take care.
I watched as Natasha walked out of the restaurant. I couldn't believe that I wouldn't see her again. How can this have happened? We were getting on so well. It's not fair. I was really feeling sorry for myself. When I got home, I called my friend Jake and told him all that had gone on.
Oh man, that sucks.
I know, I'll never find a girlfriend as good as Natasha. She's smart and funny and loyal. I just don't want to lose her.
Well, you have to find a way to be with her.
But how can I do that?
You should go to the same school as her.
I would if I could, but I'm definitely not smart enough to get into that school.
I don't know, maybe there's a way.
Jake suggested to me that I should fake my application. Do you know what? That is a brilliant idea. I know exactly what I'm going to do. I ended the call and started searching through my cupboard. I know it's here somewhere. I finally found it. Amongst all my school books was an old essay that Natasha had once written. She had given it to me ages ago as an example for a school assignment I had to do. Now, all I have to do is fill in an online application and upload Natasha's essay. An hour later, it was all done. All I had to do then was to sit and wait for their response. I prayed that they would accept me. The following morning, when I woke up, there was an email from them. Nervously, I opened it up and began to read. Yes, I got in. I called Jake and told him the good news. They accepted me. The plan worked.
Nice one. I bet Natasha will be so happy when she sees you there.
Yeah, don't tell her if you see her, will you? I want it to be a surprise.
Don't worry, I won't say anything.
My starting date was in a couple of weeks. I could hardly contain my excitement. A couple of times I nearly phoned Natasha to tell her, but I managed to resist the temptation. Finally, the morning of my first day at the new school arrived. I couldn't wait to see Natasha's face when she saw me. I walked into the hallway and immediately spotted Natasha at the other end. I ran up to her and tapped her on her back. But I didn't quite get the reaction I was hoping for. When Natasha turned around and saw me, her face fell in confusion. She didn't look at all happy to see me. I put my arms around her, hugging her tightly, and gave her a big kiss. But instead of kissing me back, she just pushed me away. I felt so hurt. Natasha, what's wrong?
What are you doing here, Paul?
Aren't you pleased to see me?
Why are you here?
I'm going to this school now too. It's my first day. I've missed you so much. Have you missed me too? I grabbed hold of her and tried to hug her again, but once again, she pushed me away. Why would you push me away? Suddenly, I heard a voice from the other end of the hallway.
Hey you, get your hands off my girlfriend!
I turned around and saw a boy standing there. The next thing I knew, he was throwing punches at me. I managed to duck out of the way of the first one, but the next two hit me square in the face. I landed a blow to his face and then punched him in the stomach, taking the wind out of him. He was just about to retaliate when two teachers appeared and pulled us both apart.
Hey, that's enough now. What's all this about?
He started it.
No, I didn't. It was you that started it.
Right, both of you come to my room at 3 o'clock. You both have an hour's detention.
The boy walked off, leaving me standing there confused. Natasha must have lied to me. Does she have a new boyfriend now? She only moved to this school a few weeks ago. How can she have found a new boyfriend so quickly? At 3 o'clock, I went to the teacher's room. The boy was already sitting at a desk. He didn't speak to me, just gave me a nasty look. The teacher came in and handed us both a paper.
Okay, you have 100 algebra questions to complete.
I finished the questions and handed the paper back to the teacher. The boy finished his just after me and handed it in too.
Okay, you can both go now.
When I got outside the room, I saw Natasha standing there waiting. I moved towards her. I was going to give her a hug, but she stopped me before I had the chance. I couldn't believe what happened next. She walked straight over to the other boy and gave him a hug. I was distraught. Natasha, what's going on? Why are you hugging him?
What's it got to do with you?
I ignored the boy and just spoke to Natasha. I've missed you so much. I thought you'd be so happy to see me here.
Well, she isn't, is she?
Chris, can you give me a minute with Paul, please?
He mumbled something under his breath and left the two of us standing there.
I'm sorry you had to find out this way, Paul, but I'm dating Chris.
But how can you have moved on so quickly? You've only been here 5 minutes.
I was dating Chris before I came to the school, actually. To be honest, it was him that told me about the school.
Oh my God, were you cheating on me with him?
I'm sorry, Paul. I really am.
I wanted to scream. My heart was literally broken. I thought our relationship was perfect, and now I'm finding out it was all a lie.
We had some good times, that's true, but sometimes things don't last.
I was so angry with her at that moment, I could feel the rage building up inside of me. So before I said anything bad, I stormed off.
Wait, can we still be friends?
Was she insane? No, we can't be friends. Later on that evening, I called Jake and told him everything that had happened.
Oh man, are you okay?
Yes, I guess so.
Are you going to come back to our school now?
I thought about it for a few seconds. No, I think I'm gonna stay here and get my revenge. Even though I was finding it a bit difficult to keep up with all the work that the school gave to me, I had to stay to find a way to get back at Natasha for what she had done to me. I looked at the stack of papers piled up on my desk. The school gave out so much homework every day. It was hard to get through it all. I mean, I'm not exactly the smartest kid. I knew that I would have to find someone to help me with all my work. I began to ask around the school, trying to find out who was the nerdiest kid there. It didn't take me long to find out who he was, and so I approached him and asked him to help me out. He was more than willing to handle all my work for a fee, so I hired him and he began to complete all my assignments. With his help, it wasn't long before I was top of the class in every subject. I was a bit concerned about what I was going to do when it came to taking an exam, but he had a solution for that problem too.
Don't worry about exams. I will just give you an earpiece and give you all the answers.
I was a bit worried that the teacher might spot that I was wearing an earpiece, but I needn't have worried. It all went smoothly. By the middle of the term, I had become the most popular kid in school. Everyone wanted to hang with me because they thought I was so clever. Natasha was pretty impressed too.
Wow, Paul. I never realized how smart you were.
I'm not that smart, really.
Of course you are. You're top of the class in everything. I wish I was as smart as you.
I walked away smiling to myself. It felt good knowing that Natasha was impressed by me. It was nearly the end of term and one of the girls was throwing a party to celebrate.
You will come, won't you, Paul?
Sure, I wouldn't miss it for the world.
Oh, great. I'll send you the address. Be there at 8 o'clock, okay?
Okay, see you then. When I got to the party, it was already in full swing. There were kids everywhere, dancing, talking, and laughing with each other. I grabbed myself a drink and went outside to the garden. I had only been there 2 minutes when Natasha came over to me.
Hi there, Paul. I thought you were never going to get here.
Were you looking out for me? She gave me a coy smile.
Maybe.
Come here. I pulled Natasha towards me and started kissing her. She started kissing me back. Suddenly, I broke off from the kiss and smiled at her. You shouldn't have done that. Her face looked confused.
What do you mean?
You can come out now, Chris. Chris walked out from where he had been watching through the kitchen window.
Chris! Paul, what have you done? You tricked me.
I started laughing out loud. Once a cheater, always a cheater. As I went back into the kitchen, I could hear the sounds of Natasha and Chris arguing in the garden.
I'm sorry, Chris. I didn't want to kiss him. He just took me by surprise.
Don't lie. I saw it all through the window. You were flirting with him.
It was very satisfying listening to Natasha trying to beg for forgiveness. That will teach her to mess with me. Monday morning, I was so excited to go to school. I couldn't wait to see what had happened between Chris and Natasha after I had left the party. It didn't take long for me to find out. The whole school was talking about what had happened.
Can you believe what Natasha did to Chris? I know. First, she cheated on the new boy with Chris, and then she cheated on Chris with the new boy.
Well, you know what they say. Once a cheat, always a cheat.
Yeah, you're right. But at least she has got her karma now. Chris doesn't want anything to do with her anymore. I don't blame him. Do you?
Definitely not.
I was so happy to hear that Chris had dumped Natasha. I was pleased that she had got what she deserved. It was very satisfying to know that my plan had worked out exactly the way I wanted it to. Just then, the bell rang to say lessons were about to begin. I went straight to my classroom, and who should be standing outside the door but Natasha?
Paul, I've been looking for you.
Oh yeah, why?
I just wanted to say sorry about what happened on Saturday at the party. I just kind of panicked when I saw Chris standing there. That's why I said that I didn't want to kiss you. But it's not true. I did want to kiss you. So, if you're still interested, I'd love to go on a date with you.
I couldn't believe her cheek. Did she actually think I would make the same mistake twice? Natasha?
Yes?
I wouldn't go out with you if you were the last girl left on Earth. With that, I brushed past her and went into the classroom, leaving her standing there with her mouth wide open in shock. I was really happy with how my plan had worked out, but unfortunately, things didn't go quite as smoothly at school. On the last day of term, I got called into the principal's office.
Paul, I have a serious matter to discuss with you.
Yes, sir?
It has come to my attention that you've been cheating in your exams.
I didn't say anything. I mean, what could I say?
We also believe that you have had someone else completing your homework for you. So, in light of all of these facts, I'm afraid we're going to have to suspend you.
Yes, sir, I understand. I didn't really care that I was being suspended. I never really liked the school anyway. It was so boring. And now that I got my revenge on Natasha, I didn't need to stay there any longer. So now I'm back at my old school hanging out with my friend Jake and having lots of fun. I've even got a new girlfriend. She's nothing like Natasha. She's not super smart, she's just a normal girl. Someone just like me.